Hi Rishike.
Rakesh, it is such a pleasure to see you, my friend. May I please welcome you and in return and say Happy World Radio Day. You're really one of the proponents of the fine medium that I've made my life in. And everybody, sorry, I have to do this blatant plug. Conversations with Radio Presenters, Let's Talk on Air. It's the only book of its kind.
In
Rakesh
the
Anand
world.
Bakshi, in the world, in the world.
Yeah, in the world.
It's a comprehensive handbook on the lives of prominent radio presenters, how you can be a radio presenter, what it takes, the trials, the tribulations, and also pretty much a handy book on what not to do as well as what to do. So, yeah, from the entire radio fraternity, Rakesh, you're part of our fraternity because of how much work you've done for us to put us out there on the world map. Happy World Radio Day.
Thank you very much, Rishike, and I want the and thank you to Crossword for having invited us. Thank you to Sohini Mitra from Penguin Random House who's going to join us later on, and thank you Harshil, thank you Tulika for setting this up for us.
Yeah,
And
I
yes,
have to say
happy.
that I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to say I have a soul connection with Crossword.
What is it?
As you
Quickly.
know, Rakesh, I was host on their annual book awards show for many a year.
Oh,
You've also been to a couple of those wonderful ceremonies at the Royal Opera House, and it's such a pleasure to work with people whose lives begin and end with books. So that's what Harshal and team do. I mean, it's great to just interact with them, chat with them, and they are what I call the last of the Mohicans. Crossword.
yeah. And you know the good news, the great news is that shop is back. The Kemp's Corner shop is back within a month, within a
I
less than a month.
believe so. I believe so. Many
Yeah, yeah.
congratulations to Team Crossword.
Congratulations to Crossword, yeah, for bringing us back the space which felt like home for many of us. And the little tiny coffee shop on top where you go and have a coffee, come down, buy a book and walk out. Lovely place, yeah. I'm so glad it's back. So Rishike, yes, World Radio Day. Thank you very much, and happy World Radio Day to everybody. And when we began working on this book, I was so surprised that radio is an industry which is and a profession which is even far began far before cinema. Much before cinema came, radio existed, and there are a million books on cinema, and there wasn't a single book, not a single book on radio. By way of how to become a jockey, who are the eminent jockeys in any particular geographical location. I chose India because I'm from here, I'm born and brought up over here. And what are the pros and cons of being a radio jockey? What are the pitfalls and the success stories? And does it pay to be a radio jockey? Does it what is the kind of life on air? What is the kind of life off air of a radio presenter, radio host, stuff like that? And that actually is the genesis of this book. That कि जो लोग हमारे हमारे बारे में बातें करते हैं, हमारे हमारे काम के बारे में बातें करते हैं, हमारी फ़िल्मों के बारे में बातें करते हैं, एक फ्लड आता है, फ्लड के बारे में बात करते हैं, या एक बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट हो जाता है, उसकी खबर देते हैं हमें, या देयर इज़ अ बुक रिलीज़, or there is an NGO doing great work, or there is somebody who needs help. He's trapped in a situation, he or she is trapped in a situation, wants help. I remember one jockey telling me, one radio presenter telling me that there was this girl who was stuck at a radio at a bus stop late in the night, and she felt threatened by someone who was trying to act a little nasty with her, and she called up this jockey. He was on air, and he actually sent one of his production persons over there in a taxi to pick her up and take her home. I mean, who does that, man? I mean, how many people do that? I mean, there are people who do that, but being live on air and being able to help someone who seems to be in a dangerous situation, I mean, that's a radio jockey. I mean, these are the kind of stories I heard, I knew about, and I felt, what, these stories need to be put in a book, man. I need to tell, and the people who are telling us stories, no one is telling their stories. I remember Rishik invited me on air, and when my first book was published, and I spoke about my book, right, our book, Director's Diaries. It was my first book as a writer. There are so many other radio presenters who have invited me to their on air over last 19 years since my father, the lyricist Anand Bakshi, passed away, and I've been on air at their radio stations talking of my father. So they are ones who encourage us to come, talk about your life, talk about your parents, talk about your book, talk about your movie, talk about your NGO, talk about your happiness, your trouble. But where are their stories? So their stories are here. And it was so difficult to choose, whom to feature, whom not to feature. So I tried to, I narrowed it down. I use a lot of like permutation combination. I like, for me it was very important that I want to feature RJs who don't mock people's failures, who don't make joke and make little of people's failures and shortcomings, because there are few who talk about a movie flopping, or someone doing a horrible job on I mean in the movies. And I always felt that success is so hard. I myself got success after almost 13-14 years of struggling to be recognized as Rakesh Bakshi, an author myself, and not only being Anand Bakshi's son. It took me 15 years to come out with a book of my own, director's diary. So I know how difficult success is. It is so elusive, it is so rare, and it is absolutely not an inclusive thing. It is a very exclusive thing. So I was very sure I will only feature people who actually respect the work of others, even if the work is a flop, if the movie is a box office failure. They don't make fun of people. They don't make fun of people's failures. Okay. The second thing was that who are the people I'm hearing? It's not that I have a great choice, but I'm a unique human being. Like Hrishi is a unique human being. Harshil is a unique human being. So I thought that, okay, I can't think for the world. Let me think for myself. Who are the people I'm hearing? Who are the people I look forward to switch on the radio to hear? So I narrowed it down again to those people. Then I tried to narrow down to various stations. I thought, okay, there should be a variety of stations. There should be a diversity in our book. So again, coming to diversity, I also wanted to include females, because there are some amazing female jockeys also, and there are as many as there are men in the profession. I think this is a very, very inclusive profession. Radio. It doesn't at all differentiate between genders. So again, it was that also I had to make a part of. Okay, there have to be women also, and I was anyways hearing women jockeys, whether it's All India Radio, whether it's Radio Mirchi or Radio One. So stuff like that.
To me, one of the biggest victories that Conversation to Radio Presenters, Let's Talk On Air by Rakesh Anand Bakshi has achieved is the fact that there are people from all kinds of radio stations. And if you pick up the book, you'll realize the last chapter is about Kerabai. Kerabai is part of a community radio station, Mandeshi Tarang Vahini 90.4 megahertz. Rakesh went, covered her extensively, and most importantly, invited her live to the Crossword bookstore, where all of us could meet her, hang with her. And what an extraordinary lady with a great sense of humor, with an amazing, powerful voice, and age is just a number for her. And we're talking people from the government broadcaster, which is All India Radio FM, where a lot of us cut our teeth before we went into so-called glamorous private FM radio stations. People like Yunus Khan and Mamta, who have, striven to take radio programming into the rural areas, into villages, hundreds and thousands of them. And of course, you had the urban phenomena, which is radio jockeys from radio stations which are largely urban in metropolises. Their lives, what keeps them ticking, and therein giving somebody who's trying to enter the profession a bird's eye view on what it is like to experience success and failure in radio. Because at the end of the day, Rakesh, that is something that every publisher would have asked you. We know today that Penguin was the only one which went out on a limb to make sure that this happens. A lot of people didn't even see potential in it. And that's the reason perhaps why there's been no book as comprehensive as this, Over the Sands of Time, despite it being the oldest platform of communication in this country. It is because very few people like yourself, Sohini, believed in it. And I think that was one of the key areas where we managed to score. And Rakesh always says it is our book. It is his name on it, but he says it's our book. And that's why, I have so much love and regard for him, because it was made from the collaborative efforts of all the presenters who were in here, who had conversations with him on a daily basis. So I think the moot point why it finally happened is, can we give the next generation the tools, the youth the tools to go out there and make a career for themselves. So apart from it being a comprehensive biography of all these radio presenters, it's also kind of like a career counseling book for people in the radio business. And I'm sure you agree with me, Rakesh.
Absolutely, yeah. When Sohini comes on board, I'm going to be talking about some of the thoughts that went behind this book and how she, presented the book. So I don't want to give it away now. Otherwise, I was going to add something to what you're saying, but I want to save it till Rohit Sohini comes.
Sure.
Sorry. So some of the things I learned, while listening to radio over since I was a child, and also getting to know all of these radio presenters very closely, was that there are various names given by the world to radio jockeys. It's radio jockeys, radio presenters, radio host. Radio host, I think, is the most. I mean, that's the one I prefer most. I think even Rishike loves radio host rather than radio jockey.
Yep, I do.
He feels it's a more dignified and a better name to give us. But anyway, any name given by any name said by respect is great. But still, radio host, I think, is a great way to address Rishike. And what I personally felt, there's one more name, there's one more term that I would add that I've also mentioned in the book. And I would call these people radio jockeys, radio hosts, radio presenters. I would call them mood elevators. Man, they elevate your mood. They elevate our mood. And you know what? The beauty is, हम कभी कभी हमारा मूड नहीं होता ना, तो हम बोल देते हैं मम्मी को, यार हमें मम्मी आई डोंट वांट टू टॉक, आई एम नॉट इन अ मूड. Or you tell your husband or wife, or you know what, listen, I'm not in a mood. Just can you just stay away for a while? You tell a kid, yeah, come on, I've had it, okay, I've had a tough day. Please, I don't want to talk to you today. Okay, I can't read this book to you today. Give me like 1 hour. But as a radio presenter, as a mood elevator, as a radio host, you are live on the mic, and you have to just put your best heart forward. The best mind तो डालना ही पड़ता है, लेकिन आपको अपना दिल सामने माइक पे डाल देना पड़ता है, irrespective of what you've been through. I know a radio presenter who, while she was doing a show, found out that a spouse has passed away, and she waited to finish the show. She just didn't leave. I mean, that's the kind of pressures, that's the kind of what we have heard as kids, in the film business, coming from a film family, the show must go on. So that's it. When you're live, the show must go on. To tell me, Rishikesh, are there any, is there any moment which comes to your mind immediately where it is a challenge for you to keep your spirit, keep your show going, and keep yourself chirpy and happy and inspiring?
Well, eat this, presenting the last show before a radio station shuts down. God, I'm laughing about it now, but it's happened with me. I mean, and it's not happened once, it's happened twice. The World Space Satellite Radio Network in India shut down. I was part of it. And I knew in my heart that this would be the last show before it shuts down. And I went on air. And another station called Win 94.6 FM shut down. And I knew when I went on air saying that, the plug is going to be pulled on it. So when you know that you're perhaps going to be jobless after this show, this very show, it's very easy to get into a morose frame of mind and start doing shero-shairi and, talk about pain and dard and things like that. But then the idea is to elevate the mood of somebody who's listening. I mean, आजकल लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कि भाई पॉडकास्टिंग का वेव चल रहा है, पॉडकास्ट है, ये है वो है. ऐसे मैं खुद पॉडकास्ट करता हूँ, लेकिन पॉडकास्टिंग है क्या? इंटरनेट पे रेडियो है. लोग रेडियो एक बक्से पे सुनते थे और आप इंटरनेट पे सुन रहे हैं.
Absolutely.
So internet radio is podcasting. Now, if you can do it with music, without music, lots of people are doing it without music because of the music rights issue. Some people have started doing it with music. So at the end of the day, that is also radio. I mean, it's internet radio. They've just coined it. It sounds cooler saying it's a podcast, but that's what it is. And the medium is never going to die, whether it's on the internet or whether it's coming out of a box. So yes, there have been tricky situations. There have been heartaches. I remember my father was tremendously ill at one point of time, and I had to get my bearings at that point of time because I had to fly out to go and meet him. Of course, he's in the pink of health right now. Like you said, there are presenters who lose loved ones, and sometimes it happens when they're on air, and they have to just finish the job at hand. So actually, like I've told you before, but I want to tell this to the audience, it is the beauty of being in the moment. It's like you, Rakesh, you're a fitness freak. When you're cycling and you're concentrating on your breath, or when you're running and you're concentrating on your breath, you are so in the moment that the past and the future does not matter. That's the way it is for us when we are on the microphone, which is
Yeah.
why we are elevated.
Yeah.
Because the moment we get off the air, we're not that much in the moment. Because dunyadari catches up with us and we have to think of the future and the past. But when we're on the mic and we are absolutely focused on the link or the talk section at hand, we are in the moment. And because
Yeah.
we feel elevation, it is our responsibility to let others feel the elevation too and try and elevate the mood of other people. So I'm just happy that, audio listening is coming back in a big way. People are listening to, I just say listen, whether you're listening to it on the radio or on the internet. Pure audio is just so beautiful. I've said this, it's the theater of the mind. There are so many things that you can conjure up in your mind just listening to that audio. And I'm so glad that there's a fresh wave. Courtesy of the pandemic, more people are getting on, to audio in various forms. And this book shall live on. And I highly urge you guys, it's available on all on-ground as well as online stores. Rakesh Anand Bakshi's Let's Talk on Air Conversations with Radio Presenters.
Rishikesh, this is the second time you've plugged in my book. I'm going to send you a big box of Bounty chocolates for this, okay?
I don't think my wife and loved ones will be very happy with that, considering how rapidly I put on in weight through the pandemic.
So anyway, great. Tell me, Rishikesh, the book, it's been now 3 years. The book has been out. And the last time I covered, whatever I felt and whatever at that moment you felt were the highlights of your life, highlight of your career, of your profession on air. Like you mentioned, having a great meeting with Salman Rushdie, great meeting with the Teach for India, Ms. Aga. In the last 3 years, is there anybody that you have featured on air where absolutely something that you must share with us today? It immediately comes to your mind. It doesn't have to be the best or the greatest, but just something which comes to your mind right now.
Just the COVID warriors, Rakesh. The COVID warriors, they've been extraordinary.
Please tell us about them. Please tell us.
The former Commissioner of Police, Mr. Sivanandan, who's featured in Ram Gopal Varma's company. Mohanlal plays that particular role. He has been on the ground as a senior citizen distributing food packets and helping migrant workers. So chatting with Sivanandan sir was fantastic. Chatting with Mufi. Sorry, go ahead. You're saying, Rakesh?
I want to interrupt you because it is something to do with our book. In our book, there's something very, very, very special that we have done. Just like how a radio jockey, a radio presenter, radio host always plays a song after 2-3 minutes of chat. In the same way, I asked all the RJs, including Rishikesh, to mention a song as a tribute that they, because they speak about their lives, they speak about special people or extraordinary people or just ordinary people doing extraordinary things for them in their lives. So there's a tribute, there's a song tribute every few pages in our book, and that's what makes our book also even more special. But in the same way, is there some after you finish this section talking about COVID warriors, please tell us which song, if we were on air right now on a radio station and we were actually at Radio 1 or some other station or wherever, what song would you blast the airways with after this section of our conversation? Continue, please. Sorry.
Yeah, it's
COVID warriors.
It's very easy. A hero comes along by Mariah Carey. They're really heroes. So that's what I'd pull out. And here is Mr. Sivanandan, after years of being a police officer, going out there and being a foot soldier, distributing food and basic amenities to people. Afroz Shah, who's a UNDP ambassador. Afroz is known as the man who's cleaned up Warsaw Beach. The United Nations has felicitated him. And Afroz said, great, I've been cleaning beaches all these years as a citizen. The beaches seem to be clean because at COVID lockdown time, nobody's visiting the beaches, so nobody's throwing plastic. What else can I do in terms of Samaj Seva? And he, again, it's just amazing how he went out and helped migrant workers. So talking to Afros was amazing. Talking to helplines who were helping people undergoing tremendous mental health problems. So one is, the problem of the migrant workers who were literally walking home. And we saw the pain and the pathos of that. And the other end of the spectrum, people facing tremendous mental illness issues. irrespective of what strata of society they belong to, the economically privileged or the underprivileged. And I did a whole series of people who are running helplines, who are helping, doing mental health initiatives. Mrs. Nirja Birla is doing something extraordinary. Harsh Mariwala is doing something extraordinary. These are all people who put their lives on the line, whatever resources they've had, money or otherwise, got medical care practitioners to come in and start counseling people, because we knew, those were really painful days for all of us. And of course, if you remember and the large COVID facility at the National Sports Club of India, Rakesh, the NSCI, that was helmed by Mufazzal Lakdawala. Now, Mufi is known as a glamorous doctor. He treats some of the celebrities. But, he really put his money where his mouth is, because when Aditya Thackeray and the establishment turned around and said, we need to build a COVID center where people can just walk in free of cost and get, be admitted. They took over the whole of the NSCI. He was helming that particular project. So, just covering COVID warriors, covering doctors, covering, foot soldiers, frontline workers. I would get doctors from Nair Hospital, junior doctors who were working 3 nights at a stretch with hardly any food to eat, just so that they could tend to patients who were coming in constantly. Understand that doctors, when they become senior citizens, have the option of not going to work, but junior doctors don't have that option.
Yeah.
They were the guys who were on the ground, and it was just fabulous to speak to all these amazing people. So I think the real heroes, the citizens, were the focus over the last couple of years, whether it's mental health or workers migrating, or people on the streets, or homeless people, or the elderly, and try and get help to them, and also shine the light on people who are doing stuff for them.
Yeah. That's on the professional front, but what about on the home front? I think you just had a baby before the pandemic, right?
Yeah, man.
So what
See,
is
the
that like?
broad smile on my face says it all.
Being a daddy during the pandemic, what is that like?
Oh, it was beautiful, Rakesh. It's just beautiful. I can't tell you. So Tiara, the elder one, was already 8, and
Ira, the younger one.
Ira, the younger one. Tiara's now gone into her 9th year. Ira now is 2. But, Ira is pretty much a pandemic baby. I mean, she was born during the pandemic, by which time I'd already shifted studio home, which is this place, got all my gear in, started broadcasting from here. And if I had to do interviews, it was like this with Zoom.
To see a lot of her daddy.
Totally, man. I just opened the door and she'd be outside. So if you ask me when Tiara's major milestones, walking, talking, the first word, the first sound, all of that, I might not have been around for all those milestones, because I was in Parel. How long hours the long hours that I work, Rakesh. Yeah. Plus, the travel to and fro from Andheri to Parel.
Yeah,
I didn't miss even a single milestone as far as Ira is concerned, because I was working out of home. So I guess we're blessed. We at least had a roof over our head. We were able to be with our families, unlike a lot of the migrant workers who are not able to, were homeless, were walking. So we really have to count our blessings and be grateful and show a lot of gratitude. So yeah, we had another child. She's 2 now. We were a little worried initially, saying, oh my God, she's grown up the first couple of years of her life in the pandemic. How will she adjust to people? But then now that things have started opening out, she seems to be the life of the party. So it doesn't seem to have affected her that for the longest time.
इतने लोग
कहाँ थे और कैसे आए? Yeah. So it's been fabulous in terms of family time, lots of quality time spent with the family. Work has gone up in terms of the fact that everybody knows you're at home.
एक गाना हो जाए यार, फैमिली के गाना. एक गाना तो बनता है भैया.
Yeah, actually, yes, good. I mean, I'd like to play. Again, I'm going to pick a song which is the family's favorite. I mean, the girls listen to "Falling for You" by Ellie Goulding a lot, so this is dedicated to them. the whole, whether it's Achal, my wife, and Tiara, they all listen to Falling for You by Ellie Goulding. So
So I
that's a
remember
dedication
when
to
you
them.
were when you were growing up, when you were a child yourself, and not a child, but I think when you were a young adult, your dad was very worried कि ये अगर रेडियो में गया या मीडिया में गया, he'll become a wastrel. I remember the word very well, wastrel. कि
Correct.
मेरा बेटा बिकॉज यूर अ तमिल ब्राह्मण
Yeah.
टैम्ब्राम और तमिल
Yeah, man.
ब्राह्मण्स में बहुत एजुकेशन ग्रेजुएशन एमएचडी अपना पीएचडी यू नो सुपर बीकॉम ट्रिपल बीकॉम बहुत कॉमन है और बहुत जरूरी है बंगाली में और आई मीन ऑफ कोर्स इन ऑल कम्युनिटीज बट यू हियर अ लॉट अबाउट इन टैम्ब्राम दैट एजुकेशन इज गिवन अ लॉट ऑफ फोकस ऑन so
Yeah, I mean,
so you're a damn good
you'll
wastrel yeah
find
you're a
us.
great you made to turn out to be a damn great wastrel bloody
Well, my father would argue with that right now. He's incredibly proud of my achievements,
yeah
and I guess that as
पापा
parents, you're
को
just being
डैडी को यू
protective.
प्रूव द डैडी रॉन्ग
जिद पे अड़े रहे हम, और
एब्सोल्युटली
देखो कहाँ से कहाँ
एंड
पहुंच
मेनी
गए.
डोंट
But
नो यू began your career from Hindi songs
जी हाँ, बिल्कुल. I mean, I
bumper to bumper
started my career. Yeah, I mean, there was bumper to
bumper to
bumper
bumper total
at Radio
Bollywood
Mirchi. Yeah, Bollywood.
total
And
Bollywood
then I used to do
आंख
Sunday
लड़का
morning
आंख मारे
classics on Radio One. Uh, मतलब हिंदी रेडियो से वास्ता तो बहुत पुराना है मेरा, और I mean I
but
still
of course
love
I mean you began
listening.
your career from All India Radio yeah the
Yeah,
giant radio station of India the
Akashvani, you're
premier
right. Which is why it's very important to matha teko when you go past these
yeah
places, because people turn around
very great
and forget, in the whole glamour and the marketing, blitzkrieg, people turn around and say, yeah, government organization, this, that. But no, I mean, you ask Neeraj Chopra today, who won Olympic gold, and he'll talk about how the structure and the government helped, so things are changing, and one must bow down with gratitude and pay obeisance to all the great structures, facilities, and people that helped one on the way.
yeah. So tell us, I mean, tell us something about when I mean I featured you in our book, and you knew only your life, but you didn't know the life of the others until you read the book. So when you read the book, what are the things that stood out for you as a RJ? I mean, as just as a son, as a brother, as a human being. What are the things that really stood out for you when you read this book? Because till then you had only read your own chapter. You didn't know
You're
much
right.
about the lives of others.
Yeah,
And
but
let's not forget, Amin Sayani Saab is in our book.
I was
Amin
just about to
Sayani
start. I mean, he's
Saab.
the original godfather of Indian radio. Amin Sayani Saab. Amin Sayani Saab has been such an important catalyst to this book. At his age, he came down to Crossroad, the bookstore, spent time with us, spoke to each radio presenter, has given us so much love, so many blessings. And this is a man who literally invented the radio movement in this country.
And he's inspired at least 3 generations
Completely.
of radio
Completely.
presenters. 3 generations of radio presenters.
So, most of the private radio presenters I knew about, because, it's a small world, you interact with each other. But
But
to
about their
me,
families, about their inspiring people in their lives, about the
yeah.
people who motivated them, their mentors, that must have
Yeah,
come
but,
as a surprise.
in conversation, some of it comes up. But let me tell you that what you brought to me in terms of Kerabai, what you brought to me in terms of Yunus and Mamta, what you brought to me in terms of Amin Saab, it just showed me a completely different side. And then you look at people with such diverse cultural backgrounds. I mean, there's Saima, with her Urdu Zaban, and there is Siddharth Mishra with his advertising background. Rohini, who's had so many trials and tribulations going to where she is. Gaurav with his deep baritone. Anmol, who's not only himself is a celebrity, who married a celebrity, which is Amrita, his wife. And, you get
Vishwanathan, our friend Vishwanathan, Bangalore.
Prithvi
Bangalore.
Vishwanathan, the Mad Hatter. So
Yeah,
it's
totally
so
crazy
many
bugger. I just love
diverse.
his
Yeah,
passion, man.
yeah, he's nuts.
He's just completely mad. He's completely madness on radio, madness.
Yeah,
He and Rohini, I think, are two total madness on radio.
correct,
Rohini and this Prithvi.
Prithvi. So it's just, and then you have people like Pandey, who've been around
Oh man,
for
that
the
guy
longest
is
time.
like, I'm telling you. I mean,
You should have
like,
just left the book to him and said,
I
you
would have
just
had
do it.
500 pages only of him.
Of him.
500 pages भरा वो आराम से भर लेता.
But
I think
Rakesh,
I had the toughest time editing his chapter because it was the longest.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
He has so
Never a
much to
dull
give
moment
because
when he
he's
had.
so deep in Bollywood. वो इतना मतलब कीड़ा तो क्या मतलब महा कीड़ा, I would say हाथी of Bollywood.
Correct.
अनुराग पांडे जी के फंडे, आय 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 मजा आया मुझे तुमके फंडे सुनते.
Correct.
मैंने काफी कोशिश की कि काफी फंडे मैंने उनमें डाल दिए मैंने किताब में हमारी. तो
नहीं,
पांडे जी के
बहुत बहुत अच्छा किया
फंडे
आपने.
पढ़ने के लिए ही आप पढ़ लीजिए हमारी किताब.
Pandey ke Fande, correct. But Rakesh, I want to ask you this question. I want to just, we've talked extensively about how these couple of years have been for me. You've gone and made things happen, my friend, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank
It's
you.
not been easy from a mental health perspective as well as from a financial perspective for any of us. People have lost their jobs. Those who retained their jobs also took pay cuts. Yeah. And through it all, like I said, I was lucky enough to have my family. You were lucky enough to have your exercise and your passion for fitness. But how have these 3 years been? And I'd like you to say it. I know that it's been an extraordinary tale of success as far as you're concerned. You've gone out and made things happen, but tell us about it.
Okay, so thank you very much for shifting the focus and the spotlight on me. You RJs are very good at shifting the spotlight on your guest. So
No, normally,
yeah,
normally radio presenters shift the spotlight on themselves, but
no, there's something
it's
I
so
know for a
important.
fact. I've been on your show twice, and I've heard your show innumerable thousands of them, and I know that you may. I mean, it may seem to someone that you're talking about yourself, but actually, you are a very good listener. You people are very good listeners. That's what a good radio presenter is, a damn good listener. This person knows exactly because that he or she is listening so well to their guest or so well to the pulse of the population and the pulse of the citizens and the pulse of the society, because they are here constantly listening to listeners. They're listening to everything the universe brings to their doorstep. That's the reason why they can have conversations non-stop. अगर गाने बीच में नहीं आते ना, आप लोग फिर भी बात कर सकते हैं. And
बिल्कुल.
that bath will not be boring because very few people know that I don't think anybody knows that I call you Radio Owl. I call you Radio Owl. There's a reason for that. Because
The
when my
only
dad used to
person in
say
the
na,
world who calls me
yeah.
that.
So my dad used to tell us, because we are Punjabis, my dad would say ullu ka patta. So I asked my dad, ये उल्लू का पट्टा तो गाली होती है. He said, अरे ये गाली ये मजाकी गाली है. तो ऐसे मजाकी गाली क्या होती है भाई? He said उल्लू का पट्टा means son of a owl. But it is not an abuse. It is a self-complimentary. So I said, how are you self-complimenting yourself? He said, उल्लू बड़ा शाना होता है. जो उल्लू होता है ना, is a very intelligent bird.
Wise,
So
yeah,
I'm
wise.
actually telling you that you are the son of a very intelligent man. So why are you behaving foolish? Why are you being foolish when I'm so intelligent? It's a reverse compliment actually. Anyway, coming back to my journey so far, you said I'm passionate for fitness. I'm passionate for I'm passionate for people. I love people. And when people ask me, how did you write these books on directors and how did you write the book on radio presenters? I said, I don't know how I wrote it. I did it because I love these people. And I said, dude, please don't do anything in this world unless you love it. You have to love these people. You have to want to be with them. You have to want to listen to what they have to say. And you have to be a very, very curious person. So you have to be a child. You have to be a child
True.
every day in that 1 2 hours conversation you have with the subject of your book or the subject of your movie. You have to be a child and you have to just present yourself as a child. Don't present yourself as a shana. Don't present yourself as a successful author or a successful bootmaker or alcohol maker or NGO runner. Nothing. You have to just be a child. Okay, I don't know anything. I'm here to learn. And actually, if you are here to learn, people will open their hearts to you. जो आप लोगों ने किया. I know a couple of jockeys, a lot of directors, when they spoke to me, they cried. They cried when they spoke about their difficult times. They cried when they spoke about their mothers. They cried when they spoke about their daddies. They cried when they faced about talking about some kind of life-threatening challenges they faced in their careers before they made it to made it. So that's the kind of passion that you go to with these people, and you have to respect their time. I think I am very, very respectful about all you people, how much time you gave me. I made sure that I keep my appointments with you, all of you. I make sure that I call you when I tell you I'm going to call you, because
Yeah.
you all have such little time for us. You have because there's so much little time in your life. A lot of your time goes preparing for the show. A lot of time goes listening to the world around you. Little time, you have very little time with your family. So I felt that, how are these people going to give me the time? They are so hard pressed for time, radio presenters, because it's a live show, it's a live
Yeah.
presentation. It's not like आप record करके चले गए. I said, यार ये लोग live करते हैं यार. I mean, they're so. I mean, all these things you have to be very, very passionate about. So I love people, and I think that's the reason why when I finished by writing a book on directors, I felt, what, I have met a lot of directors, and many of the most eminent directors of Indian film industry I featured in both our books. Then I thought, what, if, okay, the books have been published now. How am I going to grow as a human being? So I said, I can only grow as a human being if I do something different. So what is that different for me to do that I know very well? So I said, I know music very well. I know songs very well, क्योंकि मैं बचपन से गाने सुनते आ रहा हूँ. तो गानों में मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है, और मुझे क्या मैं अच्छा जानता हूँ, रेडियो, क्योंकि मैं रेडियो बचपन से सुनते आ रहा हूँ. Now, so that's how this love for this book and the love to feature you people came. I said कि जो चीज मैं सुन रहा हूँ, और जो चीज मुझे इतना सुख दे रहा है, इतना प्यार दे रहा है, why are their stories not being covered? Why is no one talking about their lives? इनकी जिंदगी में इनके क्या सपने थे, इनके कौन से सपने टूटे, इनके कौन से सपने बन गए. All these thoughts were in my mind, and so that was the genesis of this book. Then when this book was done, the pandemic came in, and I was stuck at home. I mean, I'm anyway stuck at home, because being a writer, we work 10 to 12 to 14 hours from home, in front of our screens, or in front of our kitab. But I felt that, I wrote some poems for my mother, and a lot of poems for my mother. But my mother didn't know English. So my mother could not read a single poem of mine. So after 14 years of her passing away, I thought that my mother could not read my love letters to her. So why don't I publish a book with my love letters from my mother as a book form for people to read, so that if anybody in this world reads that book, मुझे लगेगा मेरी माँ ने मेरी किताब पढ़ ली, और मेरी माँ ने मेरी जो चिट्ठियां थी मेरी मम्मी के लिए, वो मेरी
Beautiful.
माँ ने पढ़ ली. For me, I'll release this book in the universe, and whoever reads it anywhere in the world, my mother has read this book. My mother read the letters that I wrote for her. And my father had this habit of, complimenting my mother in Hindi. He would say, "Maa ka pyar, phoolon ki chhaaw." The shade of a tree is very comforting.
Yeah.
Imagine how comforting the shade of flowers will be, yeah, where there is perfume, there is a good smell, there is a softness, there is tenderness. Flowers are very tender. So I thought, yeah, my dad uses words so often, to compliment my mother, that your love for children is like the shade of a tree. So I converted that into Hindi, into English, and I made it Mother's Love, the Shade of Flowers, and I published the book. Now I thought, if I
Beautiful.
publish a book with only letters that I wrote for my mom, it'll be quite narcissist, because I'm just giving too much importance to my emotions. I thought, what about the emotions of the people I love, my close friends and my family? So I called some of my close friends and family. I said, you know what? I'm publishing my mom's poems in a book. I want you to write a letter to your mom. If you have written one, send it to me. If you haven't written one, write one. And so I got the letters, and you cannot imagine what I went through reading those letters, yeah. When I went through reading the letters that my friends and my family wrote for their mothers, including what my sister wrote for my mother, including what my sister's daughter wrote for her, my niece wrote for my sister, I lived I lived the 50 years that I lived with my mother, because I found in every letter my mother.
Wow.
हर चिट्ठी में, हर
Wow.
पोएम में, हर ट्रिब्यूट में जो मेरे दोस्तों ने लिखा था, जिनकी जिंदगी मेरी जिंदगी से बिल्कुल अलग है, डाइवर्स है, वो अलग जात के हैं, अलग एज के ग्रुप के हैं, अलग जेंडर के हैं, हर चिट्ठी में, हर पोएम में मुझे लगा कि मेरी माँ जिंदा है. मेरी माँ तो, अरे मेरी तो माँ ऐसी, मेरी भी माँ ऐसी थी. So I realized, my God, how common, how universal is a mother. She's in everybody's home. My mother is in everybody's home, you know. And how to begin this book, it was quite complex. So I thought, you know what? So about 3-4 years back, I read a beautiful book on all the letters written by G.R.D. Tata to his close friends, family, and his business associates. It is a massive 1,000-page book, and there's one letter in that book When I read that letter, I took a snap screenshot and I said, I'm going to use this somewhere. I'm going to publish this. I'm going to do something with this letter that he written to his mother. So when Jerry Tata was, I think, about 13, 14 years old, he wrote a 3-sentence letter to his mother. And I used that to begin the book, because the letter is that
Wow.
3-sentence letter to his mother at a tender age as a preteen is so beautiful, is so touching, and reminds you of what you need to do for your own mother. Because when we're living a life with the mother, we ignore them. We don't really know the value till they go away. Like, I realized my mother value much more after she left than when she was around. So I wanted this book to be a book where, after you read, you will want to write a letter to your mother and give the book to your mother. So I left a page at the end blank, and I wrote over there, "Dear Mom," and I left the entire page blank for you to write a letter to your mom and give it to her.
Awesome.
So that is what I
Awesome.
did. That is what I did. And then I thought, okay, now this is done. Now pandemic is still going on. What do I do with my time and my emotions? Because I'm bursting with emotions. I know I'm single. I don't have children, and I love children. Because I don't have children, I love children even much more than I think possible anyone can. So I thought, my youngest friend is 5 years old,
How
and she
sweet.
calls me. Yeah, her name is Akira Kedia Raval. She's a daughter of my friend Kanika, and she introduces me to her best friend, and she says, "My best friend, meet my BF, Rakesh. This is my BF," and she tells her best friend, "This is Rakesh, my BF without hair." Because she doesn't know what is aging. She doesn't understand that, when we get
Yes,
older, some
sweet.
of us lose our hair. So she doesn't understand that Rakesh is older. He's now getting older, so he lost his hair. So she calls me my BF without hair. So for girls,
So
like
sweet.
for these young people who are my friends, even my friend Ankita's children, 2 children are very close to me. Naira, my friend Akshita's daughter, is very close to me. They just love me and I adore them. My nieces, nephews are like my own children. So I thought, write a book for these people. So I didn't write a book for these people. I wrote a poem and I sent it out to my family and friends, and everybody said, "Oh my God, this poem is so cute. It's so lovely. Why don't you make this can make a damn good book." I said, "Really? Can be a book?" So I got hold of an illustrator and I illustrated the book, the poem, and it became a book. And it's about growing up. See, all of us want to grow up when we are children, right? So I wrote a book, I wrote a poem about, when I grow up, what will I want to be? So it's not about being an astronaut or about being a president of an NGO, or whatever. It's about the feelings of a child. What does a child feel between the age of 4 and 7 about growing up? It's about that. The book is about the role models that we need to be for our children, because a child only knows daddy, mummy, papa, nana, nani, dada, dadi, and maybe the driver, chauffeur, and the maid who puts her to sleep. तो इसके इसके अंदर ही मैंने पूरी कहानी पोएम लिखी है, और उसको मैंने एक बुक बना के रिलीज कर दी है. एंड नाउ माय नेक्स्ट 3 बुक्स आर चिल्ड्रंस बुक्स.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Great service to parents, to children, to society, my brother. Wonderful. Listen, we're already at
Yeah,
6:45. You
we
want to
can
check if
please
Sohini is there?
invite. I was waiting for Sohini to come on. I thought Harshal will self add her. Hello. Hi Sohini, how are you? Please meet our friend and our radio host and a subject from our book, Rishikesh Kannan. Rishike.
The
I,
Rishike.
I've heard such wonderful, vibrant things about you, Sohini. Thank you for being
Thank you
so
so
supportive of
much.
the book, and it's wonderful to
With
meet you.
pleasure. And thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to the show, Rakesh. Such an honor. And what a lovely day to connect. I think, as we are celebrating and talking all things radio, um, just such a special day today. Really delighted to be here.
We are
Wonderful.
as delighted, and before I hand over the stage to Rishikesh to do his grilling, because he's Raj is very good at grilling his subjects. I want to tell people about how we met. It's very, very important, that how you came into my life and how Penguin came into my life. So I was kind of facing some challenges trying to publish a book, and I went to a couple of top publishers, and some of them even said yes to me, send us the manuscript, but I never heard from them. They didn't even send me a rejection letter. Okay, we don't want to publish it, or it's not our stream of publishing, whatever. Uh, uh, some kind of message, nothing. So I was completely, I didn't know what to do, and I was feeling very, but I knew that I've done something good. I know that, because when I met these people, and when I spent hours with these people, recording on my dictaphone, even if I did not get moved while they were talking to me in front, on the, face to face, I swear on the soul of my parents, when I would go home and I would edit their interviews, our conversation, our interviews. Because I never interviewed them. I had a conversation with them. I swear there were moments when a tear left my eye. When I started writing, when I started getting, when I got into the editing of the conversation, that's when some of the things hit me. Because some things when you hear them, your mind is elsewhere. You're worried about the time. It's not, this guy has to go in 1 hour, or sometimes there are other distractions. But when you're writing, when you're editing, you're completely solitude on your own, and you're in the moment, man. And those, and every sentence we read as writers, authors, there is subtext to everything that you read. And I was so moved. So I knew that if I
So
am moved
true.
editing, why will people not be moved when they read these stories of these people? Yeah, why will they not be inspired? If I am so inspired, I want to be a jockey. I want to become a radio presenter. Yeah, also after meeting these people. So that these kinds of things kept me going. Otherwise, I would have probably given up and gone and done something else, written some other book. And then I happened to meet Anita Naidu, who was with Radio One in those days. And I told her, and she said, "You seem very troubled. What happened?" She said, "No, I have a publisher, and I also published. I also had a date of publishing as 1st January, but 2 months to go, and that publisher, things are not working out, and I have backed out. I have withdrawn, and I'm stuck now because I already told people, I've told the radio presenter that our book is coming out. I have a publisher, and I will lose face. And I'm not only lose face. I don't care about losing face, but I was very disappointed because when you're a writer, you want it out there. Yeah, you want people to hold your book and read it. You know. So she said, I know Penguin. So I said, Penguin? I said, how do you know Penguin? She said, Arey, I know Penguin. I host some shows for them sometimes at Crossword, or I know somewhere where something she mentioned. And I know Pia Kapoor. She's the head of marketing. I said, please, will you please speak to her? She said, yeah, of course. I will definitely speak to her. I believe in your book and I believe in you. And cut, she called Pia Kapoor, and Pia Kapoor cut called you. And I think within a week I met you in Delhi. And when I met Sohini, Rishike, when I met Sohini, I was open to being rejected. कि नहीं भाई अभी क्या आप तो RJs ले आया, because everyone told me, what is the RJs now, radio presenters, कौन अभी radio सुनता है and all that. But I am hearing radio, yeah. When I used to feel depressed, I used to on my radio. I swear, once I admitted my brother at Hinduja Hospital, and I came home that day when my domestic help was on leave. So I was completely alone at home. And I felt so alone and lonely, and I was feeling so vulnerable and scared being alone that night because my brother was in the hospital. I on the radio for company, and immediately I felt ना कि मेरे घर में मेरा दोस्त बैठा हुआ है. So that with these kind of emotions when you're carrying within you, writing a book for 2 years, you don't give up. You know that there is some value to this. So when I met you, I knew that of course it has value, but I was not sure that you'll accept. But I was quite surprised that you said, "Oh, this is something very different. This is something I have never heard of before." I said, "अरे वाह, क्या बात है? ये तो हाँ, मेरी तो दाल यहाँ पक जाएगी." I thought to myself. But tell us, what did you think at that time when I came to you with our manuscript?
So Rakesh, I still remember that day very vividly, and it wasn't too long ago anyway. But here you were, with your physical copy of the manuscript, and something we actually rarely get to see because mostly things are just emailed to us. Like we just get manuscripts attached, to emails with a covering letter and so on. But I think the moment I heard about the idea for the book, I knew it would be really one of a kind because here was a book. What is our job as publishers? We are tasked to find really unique stories, right? And this book was bringing to us the stories of some of the finest storytellers, because that's how I see radio
वाह वाह,
radio
क्या बात है.
presenters.
Your finest
Radio
stories
presenters.
sellers, super.
Yeah, so I really felt that radio presenters are nothing but just fantastic storytellers, and they have such a wealth of stories to bring to us, and that is what really stood out for me, right? And we've all been fascinated, we've been mesmerized by the voices, but do we know enough about their life journeys, about their craft, about what really brought them to this path? And therefore I felt like this was a book worth publishing, because it was not just a tribute or a celebration of radio as a medium, but it was actually a story about also those who are behind the mic, right? Because they are the ones who are, so for them the voice is, of course, like uh, presenting and having a great diction, having a, being great storytellers and presenting very beautifully is only one part of it. But I think each one of them when I read the book, I felt that there is so much of focus and thought into the kind of content they are bringing. And for me, that was the connect, because even as publishers, we are creating content, we are finding good content, and so are radio jockeys, right? And
Yeah,
I felt that
absolutely.
this
Every
was a
single day. Yeah,
every single day, and you have to find, like, you have to value your content, because again, all of this is great, like having mellifluous voice and honing your craft. All of this is one aspect, but I think even today content is the hero. And that is what radio presenters are doing day in and day out. They are bringing to us diverse stories from different people, different walks of life. Um, and I really felt this was something worth sharing with the world out there. And not just that, I felt like, again, radio presenting, it's an art. And there are so many youngsters out there, they're looking for different and unusual career options. So I felt, and that's why we kind of positioned it as a crossover book, because for older readers it would be like the whole nostalgia element, and those who listen to radio like all of us do regularly, there would be that connect. But for the younger gen, I thought this, just listening to the insights and anecdotes shared by the 14 radio jockeys whom you have featured in this story, there is just so much of information and insight that they are bringing in. If somebody really wishes to take up radio jockeying as a career, you find all of like a wealth of information in the book itself, and all of it is told through stories. It's very interesting, the format of the book, itself, the dedication after a few every paragraph. So I think it was all of that really stood out for me, and I really felt that it needed to be out there, it needed to be published.
and
I'm very proud.
coming to dedications, I was also very, very respectful. Like many of the RJs are also very respectful towards the songs they play. Some of them, they always mention the lyricist, music
True.
composer, and the singer. And being a lyricist son, I know how it hurts when my father's song is playing and his name is not taken, and only the singer's name is taken, or only the composer's name is taken, or the singer and composer's name is definitely taken, and they very rarely mention it. So I feel hurt. I can do nothing about it, because you have to just learn to accept some things. But there are some radio jockeys who name these people, like Hrishi will name the lyricist, name the songwriter, composer, everything. So I made sure that when they give me the dedications, either I would take it from them, or I would Google and find out the lyricist, the music composer, and the singer. Every single song that the RJs have, the radio presenters have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have made sure. And अगर मुझे नहीं मिला तो मैंने उनको पूछा कि बाबा बताओ इसका लिरिसिस्ट कौन है, मुझे मिल नहीं रहा है, क्योंकि बहुत जरूरी है मेरे लिए, क्योंकि आप लोग रेडियो स्टेशन पे भी इनके जब नाम लेते हैं तो क्यों नहीं मैं किताब में इनका नाम नहीं लूं. Somebody suggested me, can we remove these names?
Rakesh, I'd like to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
You'll be very, very pleased to know that that aspect we're seeing some rapid changes and inroads. I was watching television the other day, and VH1 and a couple of other channels actually now put music producer, singer, as well as lyric writer. And if you go to YouTube, which is new media, the drop down menu for every single song and the drop down video for menu for every single video now has lyric writer. And even if it's adapted from an older song, they do give credit to the original song. So in that aspect, publishing is changing, but you're right. In the radio was the flag bearer for that. We were perhaps the only medium that actually went out and said lyricist, music director and composer. Because with television and new media, initially it was only about eyeballs and views. They were not interested in going into the history or giving credit, but that has now changed. And well, you can pat yourself on the back. You've also been somebody who's really pushing for that change.
Yeah, thank you. So one more thing very important is what took me by surprise. I had a feeling somewhere that this book will get or should get accepted by Penguin, but I was taken by surprise on one aspect. When I was writing this book, when I was meeting the RJs, and when I was also trying to pitch it to publishers, pitch it to friends, pitch it to the RJs themselves, this is what I'm doing, this is what I intend to do, this is what my goal is. Never once in my dream also did I ever think that this book will be marketed towards kids also. Never. I never thought of kids, and I never thought of young adults. I did think of people who want to do it as a career for sure, but I never thought of let's position this book as something for crossover, children and young adults. because children are so exposed today. I think quite a lot of children at 14 want to know, want to research their dream. Okay, yaar, how do I, if I want to do this as a career, what do I do? So that definitely took me by surprise. So we need that you positioned the book as children's and crossover young adult.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I thought that the career aspect was only one, one part of it, and today, kids or youngsters are looking for very different things to do, and not some of them very non-mainstream options as well, right? And again, the kind of research you had done, the kind of features you had done, like all of these people, they've given very insightful information and in a very entertaining way. So it kind of, and the simplicity of the language, the way you've again structured the book, the language, it can be read by anybody and actually read very quickly. So, it's such accessible information as well. So it really kind of worked as a crossover book in that sense.
I want to
So
actually ask
yeah,
Sohini
yeah,
about
please.
what we started the discussion with. If you remember, Rakesh,
Uh,
you said before Let's Talk on Air, Conversations with Radio Presenters was published by Penguin. There were very, very few books on radio as an industry and radio presenters. So perhaps Sohini can throw some light on why that was the case. Were you not getting enough people coming to you with bound manuscripts? Was it the way that people were writing about radio, or was it the case that perhaps nobody came forward?
I think it's a mix of both, right? And so I oversee the children and young adult imprint. So again, in any case, like a book on radio coming to me as a manuscript, I've rarely seen, because you think of kids and that younger audience, when you tend to think of them as your TG, you think of certain genres only, right? You don't want to kind of, you think that, let's not overburden them with something like radio, but it's nostalgia, it's a thing of the past, and these are kids with shorter attention spans. This is the digital age. They've moved on. So the kind of submissions we get, even within nonfiction, it ranges. There are, of course, books on different topics, different nonfiction themes, soft skills, careers, but somehow, nothing on radio jockeying. I mean, I haven't come across in my 15-year career at PRH, and therefore that is fascinating. I really don't know what the reason could be. Maybe nobody has done enough research to write about it. And like I said, this book, there are two aspects to this particular manuscript. One is, of course, a celebration of radio as a medium, and the whole what it's done to the masses, the community bit, and all of that. But the other is featuring real life people, so inspiring and chronicling the stories of presenters, contemporary and otherwise. Like some of them, like you start with a legend like Amin Sayani ji. So I think that really is the USP of the book, and I know for a fact no other book out there has really done it, like bringing all of it together, binding it, weaving it so beautifully into a really engaging narrative. So
Yeah,
that is what it does.
yeah, that's very well answered. Time for a sequel, and this time, because she said what she said about the current generation, maybe you should start including podcasters. Shwani, I was just telling him that the pandemic has seen a huge wave of audio listening in terms of podcasting. And what really is a podcast? It's an internet radio show, isn't it? It's a
Absolutely, this is
radio
radio.
program on the internet.
It's
You
a
know,
radio show without
that's
a
what it
station.
is.
True, true.
And you could choose to do it with music or without music, and most podcasters are choosing to do it without music, which is basically talk radio, isn't it? And
Right.
it's surprising to see so many young people just putting their headphones on, even if they're going for a jog or they're working on the computer. They've got podcasts on and listening. So there's an idea for a sequel where you get even the digital generation involved. You cover
That's a great
mainstream
idea,
radio
actually.
presenters as well as podcasters, and what makes them tick.
So true, and it amazes me also the kind of parallels this has to, again, the book publishing industry, right? And again, this is in the last 2 years we've also seen a rise in the number of audiobooks that are being sold, and I think the reasons
True.
are again fairly simple. So again, I'm just drawing a parallel here, right? And so I think, yeah, there is something for all of us. But great idea on the podcaster.
Yeah, I mean, it's still at its nascent stage, so you might not find people of the stature or the ilk of Amin Siani in the podcasting business.
That's
But it might
true.
not be a bad idea to get insights, because, at the end of the day, like you both of you pointed out, that this is a genre that can be adapted to children, to young people trying to build careers, and it's just how to make it more palpable, make it more exciting, make it more consumable, for them, which you managed to do with yours, Rakesh. And like I said, there's always scope for a sequel. You have another guest, don't you?
Yeah, we have a surprise coming in, but before I come
Because
to her,
I just saw a pop-up window saying guest waiting. So,
yeah. I've invited somebody as a surprise, and I hope it'll be a pleasant surprise for all of us. So before we move on to the next, to the last
can I
segment,
ask Sohini one more question, please?
you can ask her three more questions about publishing or anything in the
I
radio.
know, I know. It's like asking you to choose amongst your various children in a decade and a half of this career at PRH. But would you put your finger on three most exciting books that you've been involved with to publish? Three of them, please,
Again,
and
you
the reasons.
you
And the
said,
reasons.
What comes to your
uh,
mind immediately?
you know, I don't know, each story is so unique, right? And I think more than the content, what really brings me joy is also, finding new voices. And that I think for me, it's a very, like, satisfactory thing. Like at the end of the day, I feel very good about it. But of course, I've worked with the likes of Mr. Bond, and I've sort of worked on his set of memoirs for children. And I just feel like, he's written a set of four books, and the fifth one's coming out soon. And it started with a book called Looking for the Rainbow, My Years with Daddy. And it really talks about his, again, life story as a child, what inspired him, again, India at that time during the independence years, and what really brought him to, reading and writing, what inspired him, what was like at that time. So he writes beautifully, and this was really, I really never thought it would start off like it was just one book, and now it's expanded into a series, and it's been very well received. And personally, for me, I find, like, everything that he writes, there is just so much, like you can read literally between the syllables, right? And it really stays with you. And I feel what we've created is like a classic of sorts, which will be loved and enjoyed by readers, and even posterity. And I feel very, very proud to have published it. And there are, of course, a whole bunch of books. Like, I've kind of started like picture book publishing a few years ago, and we were not really mainstream picture book publishers. But the sort of picture books I started doing at, Puffin India, which is the imprint with the kind of, I oversee here. We started talking about conversation starters. So, that there are tons of, like a few picture books we started with. So, for instance, there's a book on gender sensitivity, Pink and Blue. There's another book called I Need to Pee, which is essentially about human rights, like
Wow.
safe toilet experience. And likewise, there's another book which actually recently won so many awards. It's called When Adil Speaks. So it's about a child, with a hearing impairment, and what really happens. How does he, kind of strike friendship? How do they speak? And at the end of the book, you have an entire thing of sign language A to Z, like the alphabet. It's also you leaving food for thought for kids. You're trying to sensitize kids, about diverse subjects, about non-mainstream subjects, and that's what we've been doing, in the last few years. So there's just so much of content out there. It's sometimes really difficult to publish everything. So, it's also a very tough and challenging task at that. But we're really trying to find unique stories. We're trying to find unique ideas, and really packaging it, like, with stunning illustrations. We're also finding great illustrators, and kind of, making that whole beautiful experience of words and pictures, that whole marriage, right, coming together. And that's what we do. And that's what makes our work really unique and special, I would say.
More power to you. And I know, Rakesh, that you're a Sudha fan, Sudha Murthy. I'm a Ruskin Bond fan, always.
I'm
No
born and brought
disrespect
up
to
on.
Sudha. I love
Yeah,
Sudha a lot, but Ruskin Bond it is for me.
funny
And
that
well, I
two
work
favorite
with both. I've really been
Correct.
privileged
True.
to work with
my
both of
two
them.
favorite authors are Bond and Sudha Murthy. For Sudha Murthy, for me is a goddess of writing, and as a goddess of social service, upliftment of
Of course,
uh, of
she's
society.
truly inspiring, and
Yeah,
yeah,
very
we do have
very
it.
inspiring.
Very
I don't think
inspiring, and
there
we
should
have
be
a
any
new book
more.
coming soon.
I
So
don't
I
think
can
there should
plug
be
it.
any home. I tell my friend there should be no home is a home without a Sudhamurti book. This is my own personal opinion. अगर एक घर को घर बनाना है, if you want to make a house into a home, add one Sudhamurti book to it.
चलिए
That's
दो
my.
किताबें, चलिए दो किताबें, एक रस्किन
मैंने
बोर्ड, एक
6 रखी हुई
सुधामूर्ति.
है. So I
Oh,
before I
well
come
said,
on
I
to
think.
before I move on to Vaishnavi Shriram, our last guest, there's something that I learned from writing this book, which I have to share. I was completely oblivious to this entire community, and thanks to Yunus Khan, when I met Yunus Khan, I asked him that which is the most profound, or most significant, or most touching moment from your entire life on radio so far. And he narrated to me a story about a blind listener who was working in a PCO. I swear, I cried on hearing it. I cried even while editing it. And that interview made me realize that how can I write a book on radio and not include the voice of the visually impaired? So I immediately, that same week, I traveled to Happy Home School for the Blind in Worli. I went to Victoria Memorial School for the Blind in Nardio, and I met a lot of blind children and teenagers and adults. And I talked to them about आप सुनते क्या हैं, आप क्या सुनते हैं, आपको क्या पसंद है. And some of the things I learned from them is that the one thing they miss on radio is radio commentary of cricket. सो आई आस्क देम कि ऐसी क्या चीज है क्रिकेट कमेंट्री में कि आप उसको इतना मिस करते हैं और आप उसको इतना सुनना चाहते हैं. ही सेड समथिंग अमेजिंग टू मी. ही सेड कि सर क्रिकेट जो है ना कमेंट्री बहुत विजुअल गेम है. आई सेड विजुअल गेम मतलब, अरे सर आप सोचो ना, अगर वो कमेंटेटर बोल रहा है कि उसने चौका मारा, वो गोल भी गया, गेंद उधर गई है, तो हम उसको इमेजिन कर रहे हैं. हम इमेजिन कर रहे हैं कि गावस्कर भाग रहा है, हम इमेजिन कर रहे हैं कि कोहली का बैट अभी ये पोजीशन में होगा. तो इट्स अ वेरी विजुअल फॉर अस. क्रिकेट इज अ हाईलाइट ऑफ रेडियो. और आप प्लीज मोदी साहब को कहिए, दीज आर देयर वर्ड्स, आप प्लीज मोदी साहब से कहिए कि जैसे वो मन की बात है ना, वैसे ही क्रिकेट प्लीज आप रेडियो स्टेशन में वापस लाइए. दैट वाज अ मैसिव लर्निंग फॉर मी. And I think the book would have been incomplete, just like how I felt the book would be incomplete with Amin Sayani and RJ Kerabai. The book would have been incomplete had I not included this little, small, tiny, but very big chapter in the end, in the epilogue, about how the blind here listen to radio. That is for me a very big learning as an author. And it made me a better human being because I learned something to add to my personality, that I know that I am aware that the blind are very big consumers of radio. Rishika, you want to add something?
No, you're absolutely correct. In fact, you know that I go to the National Association of the Blind and I read a lot for them.
Yeah.
In fact, lots of books in the library have, my contribution in terms of voice, and I do it completely gratis, simply because, what is it we're doing to give back so little? And if I've been blessed with a voice, then it's not only to fend for me and my loved ones and put bread on the table, or to try and attain some fame. I think that gives me perhaps even more satisfaction than doing a great radio program, which is just to be able to read a book. And some of them tell me, they say, we read a book in your voice, it's fantastic, and this and that. So yes, it's an experience that cannot be described till you meet the visually impaired person, and they talk to you about their listening experience. And I would urge everybody, I mean, the NAB, for example, in Bombay, in your city, I'm sure every city has a concerted movement for the blind. We have it here, which is a massive audio library in the National
Talking
Association
books.
of the Blind.
Yeah, talking books, yeah.
Talking books. Find a library for the visually impaired, for the hearing impaired, for the blind, and try and contribute in whatever way you can, because the gifts that you shall receive are, like I said, just too blissful to be described.
And one of the offshoots of coming to know that the blind are such big consumers of radio, one of them told me that, asked me, what do you do? So I said, I'm an author. And he said, क्या लिखा है आपने? So I said, I've written a book for directors. मैंने किताब लिखी है, Directors Diaries. फिल्म मेकर्स की किताब है, उनकी जिंदगी के बारे में, वो फिल्में कैसे बनाते हैं और फिल्मों में आए कैसे. तो इसे आपने हमारे लिए बनाई कि नहीं बनाई? तो ऐसे आपके लिए बनाई मतलब इसे नहीं आपने या तो ब्रेल या फिर आप ऑडियो बुक बनाइए। ऐसे मेरी ऑडियो बुक नहीं है थी, फिर हम कैसे आपकी किताब पढ़ेंगे? आप इसके प्लीज ऑडियो बनाइए। सो आई कॉन्टेक्टेड ऑल द आरजेस दैट आई नो who are featuring in our book, and I
Yeah,
asked them to give their
I have a
voice.
chapter. I have a chapter in
Yeah.
your director's diaries. Yes.
So I wrote to HarperCollins India and told them, listen, I want to convert the book into audio. Please give me the rights. And they immediately agreed to give me the rights. And I also paid my royalty. And I made Director's Diaries, my first book as an author, into an audio book. Thanks to that one blind boy I met at Happy Home School for the Blind. And thanks to all these RJs who came and gave me their 1-2 hours and read the chapters in our book and made an audiobook for free for 1 crore blind people in India. The book is available for free. So if this book was not to be have been written, that book would not have been born. Director's Diaries audio book for free for blind. पैदा हुई है और ये पैदा हुआ है आप लोगों की वजह से, आप दोनों की वजह से। तो शुक्रिया, thank you very much. Can I invite Vaishnavi now? Vaishnavi Sriram is here. Hi Vaishnavi. Vaishnavi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
So that's Sohini Mitra. She's from Penguin Random House. She's a publisher of young adult
Hi,
and
ma'am.
children's books.
Hi,
Of course,
Vaishnavi.
there's Hrishi Kannan. You met
Hello.
him on the book at the Crossword.
Yes, yes,
Hi,
yes, yes.
Vaishnavi. How are you?
I'm doing good.
So
How are you,
Vaishnavi
sir?
also. So Vaishnavi is somebody. She and her she's got a gang of girls who they're a band. They're a band of girls, 4 girls, and they sing songs and they perform. And I asked them to create I asked them to sing a song for me, which I got written and composed and produced by Meghna Ghaipuri, the president of Whistling Woods, and we produced a song called Radio Hume. And they were the singers, all these girls and Shubham Mulai. So invited her today that why don't you come here today and you end our event with any English song that you would like to sing or any other Hindi song that you would like to sing as a tribute, not just to our book, because our book is very small compared to World Radio Day. World Radio Day is far larger than our tiny book. So as a tribute, Vaishnavi, can you please perform some song for us, just the Mukhra and the Antra, and so that we can end this in a beautiful, beautiful musical manner.
Oh,
Rishikesh, you want to say
what a
something?
lovely gesture. What a lovely gesture, Rakesh. This is truly a surprise. You told me Sohini is going to be on, and till that pop-up window didn't come saying, the Vaishnavi was in the waiting room. I had no idea this is going to happen. But truly, Vaishnavi, thank you. Thank you for actually
Definitely,
giving
sir.
voice
Definitely,
to
sir.
this. And, Radio Hume itself is such a wonderful title to honor a medium that has given us so much. So the stage is yours, or rather, the Zoom is yours.
So I think your voice is echoing. Are you in a where are you? You're in a hotel right now. I called her just 45 minutes before. 1 hour before I called her, I said, "Can you do this for us?" She said, "Of course, I'll do it. I'm in a event at a hotel, but I'll find a quiet place." So thank you, Vaishnavi. So the sound quality may not be great because she is not at home. She's not in a studio where she has a proper mic and sounds in a silence. So we'll have to just bear with this whatever quality we can get from a
Thank you
hotel
so
room.
much,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this compliment.
So Vaishnavi, can you put your video off when you sing, because I think your bandwidth is you don't have good internet.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it better? Can you see me, sir, now? Can you see me, sir, now?
No, Vaishnavi, you're frozen. So what Rakesh is suggesting is you can save on some bandwidth, switch off your video, and then we can hear your
Definitely.
mellifluous,
Yes, sir.
your mellifluous voice in just audio form.
Yeah.
For sure, sir. So first of all, a very big, happy World Radio Day. And as a tribute, I'll be singing a very fun song. So just enjoy, just hum along. It's one of my favorite songs. I always enjoy singing it. Come and listen into a radio station where the mighty hosts of heaven sing. Turn your radio on. Turn your radio on. If you wanna hear the songs of the Zion coming from the land of in the spring, get in touch with God. Turn your radio on. Turn your radio on. And listen to the music in the air. Turn your radio on. and glory share. Turn the lights down low and listen to the Master's radio. Get in touch with God. Turn your radio on, turn your radio on. Yeah. So this
Lovely,
is
lovely, Vaishnavi. Thank you very much.
Exquisite, exquisite. Thank you very,
Incredible.
very,
Yeah.
very
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much for having me here today.
As they say, it is a fitting finale. You know,
Totally. I couldn't
totally.
Vaishnavi,
have
what
put
is
it
the name
any
of your
better.
what's the name of your girls' band and what's your Instagram ID of your girls' band? Please plug it in.
Oh, yeah, it is. Oh my.
We are
Oh,
marketing ourselves, hardcore marketing ourselves here today.
my band's Instagram ID is o_my_chords. So you can,
Oh my
definitely follow us
chords.
for
Oh my gods.
it's
Oh
my
my gods. Okay.
That's
Okay,
wonderful. I'm going
before
to make it a point to follow you guys. Yes.
and
Thank you so much, sir.
story her, yeah. Story her so your audience can get to know about her.
Of
Rishike,
course.
before we go, last request is I know that you are a bathroom singer. I know you're a shower singer. I know that you bloody sing in your studio before the mic comes on. You also sing when the songs are playing. You get up and you start dancing to some of the song. I know all you artists do this. Okay, you cannot not dance when some songs are playing because that's your job. You're born to do that, right? So before we go, I want to hear you sing, however bad, good, frog, crow, call it what you want, but we want you to one song from you before you go.
Well, since Vaishnavi has thrilled us with her mellifluous voice doing an English track, I'm going to sing a couple of lines of one of my favorite Hindi pop songs. It's the lyrics are written by Mehboob and it was sung by KK, the singer, who does a fair amount of Bollywood playback and also has a bustling pop career. And the music is by Leslie Lewis. So let me just sing this for you guys since the credits are out of the way. हम रहे या ना रहे कल कल याद आएंगे ये पल पल ये हैं प्यार के पल चल आ मेरे संग चल चल सोचे क्या छोटी सी है जिंदगी कल मिल जाए तो होगी खुश नसीबी हम रहे या ना रहे याद आएंगे ये पल.
क्या
That's
बात
that.
है. You know, this song can make a damn good tribute to radio itself. कि मैं शायद रहूं ना रहूं आगे आके because technology will change. लेकिन मैं याद जरूर आऊंगा तुम्हें. What a lovely way to end this. And before we go, like how I said that there are various names for radio presenter. There's radio jockey, radio host, radio presenter, and all these names. And I also thought of giving you all a new term called mood elevators. There's one more name which comes to my mind today. It's never come to my mind ever before, and it's a one-word name. And I'm going to give it out. What has come to my mind right now, hearing you, the way you speak, the way you, think of stuff, Rishike. I want our audience, after this show is done, right? Hum rahe na rahe. After this show is done, I want you all to mention in the comments of the Facebook page of Crossword that what is that one word or two word or three words that you will want to name a radio jockey with, and you don't have to name the radio jockey. Just mention what term would you use for a radio jockey and the one that I love the most or which Sohini loves the most. The author will present one copy of our book to you free. And I'll ask Rishike to sign it and I'll send it across to you anywhere in India at my cost. One book from my side and from Rishike free. He will sign it and I will sign it and I will send it to you. So do that after the show is over. And before we go, I have one word name term for you guys. All of you. What I've experienced being with you, sharing coffee and lunches with you, what I've experienced recording with my dictaphone conversation with you, what I've experienced hearing you all on air, what I've been told by various people who hear radio bachpan se leke aaj tak, what I've been told by the blind also, the visually impaired. There's one term that comes to my mind today after 3 years of this book, and I wish this had come to me earlier, but you mature with age, right? And that one word for you all is, you all are nothing but philosophers.
Wow.
Because
That's
you
very
cannot
kind of you.
express anything on air or anything in a book without philosophizing it from your experiences. It
Well, one
cannot.
of
It
my
has to go
favorite,
through the filter of
Rakesh,
philosophies.
one of my favorite writers, Amitav Ghosh, says that. He says, life makes a philosopher out of you at some
Yeah.
point. So
And
I
I think,
guess
and if I can call you
life
guys
does.
philosophers, I think even radio is nothing but a philosopher. So,
Wonderful.
anything else, Sohini, you want to say something before we go? Last bites given to our
Oh, just
publisher.
such wonderful, this was such a great evening, honestly. And the one word that comes to my mind is magician. I think you guys
Ah,
are magicians.
Jadugar.
You are just, you have magic, not just, in what you say, the way you connect with people, the way you listen to others so patiently, so calmly. You're nothing short of that. And please continue to do the great work that you're doing. And I will remember this evening for a very long time. Thank you, Rakesh, for making me a part of this. Really,
Most
deeply,
welcome.
Wonderful.
deeply.
It was a joy and
Thank you
pleasure.
again for
Thankful.
publishing. I'm sorry, I have to plug this because it's really so important. Let's Talk on Air, Conversations with Radio Presenters by Rakesh Anand Bakshi. It's been published by Penguin. The ebook is also available. It's on all on ground as well as online stores. Please go and pick it up. It'll give you a unique perspective to what we do, and I urge you to do so. Thank you, Shoini. Thank you, Rakesh. This was fun. Cheers. Happy World Radio to you
Cheers.
guys.
Thank you,
Radio
Prosper.
Day.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Vaishnavi. All the best, guys. All the people who give us their time to listen to us. Bye.
Bye. Have a great